California Governor Gavin Newsom has called Donald Trump out with fighting words and says he has a polluted heart. This after the federal government stuck the military, I guess, I don't know, they were all masked soldiers onto MacArthur Park. I'm going to share the news story right now about what actually went down. And then after this, we'll be discussing more on the Epstein client list or lack thereof and how this is sending MAGA into a tizzy after campaign promise after campaign promise has been neglected. So here we have KCAL News in Los Angeles kind of reporting on the bizarre story that happened in MacArthur Park in Los Angeles.
She showed up on the site and she said, "You need to leave now." It's not clear if that's why they left or what exactly was going on. It was actually a very odd scene. It did not last very long. It kind of compare it to a couple of folks at the bar kind of like bowing up against each other, but nobody actually throws any punches. So take a look at this video. As you can see, there was a very large presence out here by what appears to be federal officers. You see a lot of horses. There was a large mounted unit of about 24 different mounted horses that arrived here. And that's when you see Mayor Karen Bass show up. She tells everyone to get out of here. And then they did. So it's not clear why they were actually here. They were just kind of marching around. You could see that they were showing a full force of something.
So the real issue here is it's like it feels to me as though Trump is sending the military into the cities to try to goat something very bad into happening. Now, what might that be? I don't know. Instigating, MacArthur Park. Some of these parks have, a lot of like transient, a lot of homeless people live there. People, they're not. It's not the cleanest of parks. And again, God bless the sort of city for trying to clean it up, but it's been a disaster for a long time. Look, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. I've seen it. I've had my car battery stolen 5 times. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to try to clean it all up, but it's also a city. It's one of the biggest cities in the world. So that's just what happens, especially having Los Angeles be in Southern California, which is one of the nicest, Mediterranean climates. It's the only one outside of the Mediterranean that, people can live in year round. So it's actually become sort of like a magnet for a lifestyle of people that, are unhoused and whatnot. But I say that because you wonder did they want to send these troops to MacArthur Park to try to ruffle feathers and maybe create a situation where they instigate? It's really hard to tell. But here is the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and during his 6-month press conference, giving an update about the deadly California wildfires. Here's what he has to say about the weaponization of the federal essentially the military coming onto his streets.
What a disgrace, what's happening in MacArthur Park. What theater. On the 6-month anniversary, after all, of these fires. That's the message from the polluted heart of the President of the United States. The polluted heart of Stephen Miller. Those National Guard men and women that were out there protecting people are now being used as political pawns. Out there on horsebacks running through soccer fields in the middle of the day, timed around announcements and events like this. It says everything you and I need to know about the state of mind of the President of the United States in this administration.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, what were they doing in MacArthur Park, and why was it at the same time Newsom was giving his address? Was it to steal the media cycle, like I said, or was it just to, show, hey, we have control? And again, I believe the courts ruled that they're entitled to be there, which is absolutely insane because normally the governor calls on the National Guard if they need them, and then the National Guard is deployed. But in this case, Trump said, I'm going to send it regardless of whether or not you want it, which, by the way, is very ironic because the Republican Party says they like states' rights, not overreach from the federal government. And if you really liked states' rights, you would let Governor Gavin Newsom and the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, just handle their city. And since there was actually nothing going on there was really no point for the federal government to be involved. Here's Karen Bass giving a statement, really just getting in the middle of it. She's actually on the phone with this Border Patrol on his cell phone, trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
We're departing.
Okay. All right. Statement, Mayor Bass. Karen Bass.
Mayor Bass.
Oh
any comment, Mayor Bass?
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
Who did you speak with?
Just wait and see.
Mayor Bass,
She said it's unacceptable. And again, we'll have to see if there's any updates as to what the heck was actually going on there. And again, could it be to just steal some attention away from some of the heavy hitting questions regarding Epstein? Maybe. So when we talk about Epstein, a couple of days ago, it came out, I believe it was Sunday evening, an Axios report came out that there is no client list from Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what's very interesting is that they decided to release hours of security footage, and there is 1 minute that is missing in that security footage. We'll get to that in a second. But here's Fox's Ducey saying, what happened to the client list? Attorney General Pam Bondi said it was on her desk. She said it was horrible. We're sifting through the footage, X, Y, and Z. And now we have Caroline Leavitt. Really, I mean, just her job is to wear that nice cross right on her clavicle and just lie directly to the American public.
What happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
I've got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again...
There it is, folks. Oh, she's not wearing her cross today, so I guess she's allowed to lie to us. Good grief. I mean, you want to talk about polluted hearts. What in the hell is going on here? So this is absolutely wild. This is posted by Real Brett Lee. Absolute clown show happening right now. So what he shows is that they've released this surveillance footage, which is supposed to show the front door of Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell. But there's actually a minute that is missing here. So they show the midnight. They actually...
Did they really think that we weren't going to see this and figure this out?
They go from 11:59 to 12 a.m. so there's a whole 60 seconds missing. And again, I mean, I don't know if there's any more to the story here, but I will say the fact that they claimed this was some giant story and now that it's not politically convenient to them, they're changing their tunes. Whether there's a client list or not, why is Ghislaine Maxwell behind bars, for 20 years? Where's this sort of vindication for all of the victims by, arresting people? And here is a compilation of all of the different MAGA types who are losing their mind following their disappointment of the Trump administration sitting on their hands.
This is supposed to be about the most transparent administration ever.
What on earth is going on? Was Pam Bondi set up by deep state FBI career officials? Is she stupid? Is she so click thirsty that she got out over her skis trying to make news, being a Fox News star?
Pam Bondi, all of it. All those videos are saying, yeah, she's seen the videos. It's all coming out. And then now it doesn't exist. I mean, what? What?
The Jeffrey Epstein case, you do not know all the details of this thing, I promise. There are a lot of really obviously powerful people. This part you know, but the specific names we may not.
There were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable.
What you're going to see hopefully tomorrow is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
So what happened?
So there it is. there it is. And then when confronted, they're saying, oh, yeah, that's not what we meant. And, the old idea, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. I don't think the American people are that dumb. I really don't. And they don't like what they're being told. In other terms, we're going to talk about the trade deals right now because this is really big this week. It's kind of rocking the stock market. They're, giving different ultimatums to different countries about the tariffs. Again, they did this on April 2nd, and it really tanked the markets, and they had to kind of pause it and push it back. So now the question's being asked, and finally reporters are asking tough questions. Whatever happened to doing 90 deals in 90 days? They've essentially done like no deals. There's a couple deals they announced, but they were pretty much deals that already existed. Where are the deals?
Is that an acknowledgement that perhaps the administration found it more difficult to negotiate these trade deals, or whatever happened to 90 deals in 90 days?
No, it's an acknowledgement that this administration is doing what's best for the American worker, and we want the best deals possible for our workers, for our manufacturing base, for our middle class, and they are doing this deliberately and appropriately on behalf of our country's interests. Josh.
Again, no answers. Where are the deals they were supposed to be making? So while Texas was or is underwater dealing with this terrible flood situation, you've got Ted Cruz caught on vacation again abroad during the Texas tragedy. Now, you might remember there was like a hurricane. I don't remember, it was a hurricane or a deep freeze. Maybe the electricity was out, but it was a bad thing happened, and Ted Cruz was caught vacationing in Cancun. Maybe it's just bad luck. He always books his vacation when his state is, having a natural disaster. Either way, rather than be there helping in any way possible, he's hanging out in the ruins in Athens. And it's like the comment sections are basically saying, look, this is what folks voted for. They knew what they were getting. This is what they get. And again, I just remind people, you don't have to vote that way. You can, find somebody that's willing to fight for you, not, do sightseeing in Athens after 80 plus people died in a, once in a generation flood. Here we have Donald Trump going back on a campaign promise. One promise was to sort of stop funding the war in Ukraine. Now, I, for one, think it's good that we're helping Ukraine defend themselves from Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine, and as we saw previously, Donald Trump basically he wouldn't even admit that it was Russia that was the instigator. He had a hard time I guess sucking up to the idea that Zelensky is a hero, defending his country, President Zelensky defending Ukraine, and not running away, not getting bone spurs, getting his daddy to write, doctor's notes that he's got bone spurs. Who would have done that? But here we have Trump saying he's actually sending more weapons to Ukraine, which, by the way, that's all the U.S. was doing before, not sending money, sending military equipment, defense things, drone capabilities, so that they would have a fighting shot. Because if Russia invades Ukraine, then they are literally at the footsteps of the United Nations, of Poland, and, nobody thinks that they would stop with Ukraine.
Yeah. On Ukraine, Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now.
But this is the problem I have. First, he says, I'll have this thing ended by the first day of office, or I'll have this war ended before I get into office. So he then goes back and says, it's all hyperbole. I'm exaggerating. So it's like, which one is it? Now, I think, he probably should have understood as he was campaigning for office that it's a little bit more complicated than just not supporting our allies. But here he is going, no, we actually got to do this. It's like, well, that's what Biden was doing. They were sending military equipment to Ukraine, and then we were paying, through our tax dollars for new military equipment to be made in the United States. So as much as I hate war, this is a way to continue to fund a war without having to send any of our own soldiers there. And it's for a just cause, which is to help a country defend itself. Again, I'm not, obviously I would prefer that these wars don't exist, but it's certainly not one that we're trying to start. And the best and quickest way for this thing to end is to help Ukraine defend itself. Well, ever the sort of mogul for peace, we have Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu presents Donald Trump with a letter saying he wrote to the Nobel Prize Committee and is nominating Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. I hope Netanyahu doesn't have bruised knees from the filleting he's doing of Trump.
Present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Well, thank you very much. Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much, baby.
And of course, I don't know what Netanyahu knows about peace, but either way, fascinating stuff. I mean, how else do you end this one, right? Wild stuff indeed. So if you enjoy my content, the way I kind of try to decipher and break down this news, sanitize it for you, please do me the honor and hit the subscribe button, give us a like and leave a comment. It helps the algorithm so we can continue to make videos like this. If you have any connections on any other progressive media shows like Brian Tyler Cohen, David Pakman, Breaking Points, I would absolutely love Kyle Kalinske. These are folks that I would love to collaborate with if they ever want to hear the ramblings of a comedian who, of course, I'm just trying to process all of the insanity that's going on. I appreciate you guys being along for the ride. We'll be back this afternoon. You can join me live on Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you want to catch me working out what I'll be talking about this afternoon in the private live stream, we call it Work with Dave. That's always at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Otherwise, I'll see you this afternoon. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.